Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Six Dorans Show. I'm your host, Jacob Sminted Sanders, and as usual, I'm doined. No, I'm just gonna say I am joined by Tanner Blitzerama Brelje.
Hello.
Never fails. I can't get my words together, and of course, Jamie Celceus Christensen.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. So when do we want to make bets on when I'll ever actually get my words correct?
I don't want to take that bet.
I think it's the last 4 or 5 in a row. I'll have to check that. I have not gotten the intro smoothly done.
Do you need to write it out, Sanders?
It's not even that. I just fumbled over a word. Like I said joined instead of joined. Like I knew what I was saying, but god damn it. Anyway, so gonna be a bit of a short episode this week, considering how we're only doing NA.
Why are we only doing NA, Sanders?
I was gonna get into that. I was really dumb and thought EU was playing last weekend as well, but EU did not play last week. So our predictions from last week still apply to this coming weekend of games. I don't know why, but last weekend when I saw July 12th, I'm like, oh yeah, that's this weekend. Not thinking that this weekend was so big brain over here.
I don't like that because that means now that EU is 2 weeks behind.
Well, I mean, it probably means that by the time NA playoffs are done, EU playoffs are going to start, which is cool because that means more league and less break in between worlds.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I mean, I guess.
Kind of how I see it. So less of a gap in between. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm a football fan suffering over here because football is still 3 weeks away, and then meaningful football is still 7 weeks away. So I'm ready for my sports season to start. You know, NBA just ended. I'm ready for my sport. I mean, baseball's okay, but I prefer live baseball over TV baseball. Like I'll occasionally catch a TV baseball game. That's not very often that I'll do that. I much prefer live baseball games if I'm going to watch baseball. So,
yeah, I would agree with that.
Like the last game I watched, the Diamondbacks destroyed the Rockies 8-0, and that was like a week and a half ago. So,
can't say that I have watched a complete baseball game on TV for years, other than maybe a World Series game. But even that, I don't know if I would say that I watched the whole thing.
That's fair. So, baseball is definitely a sport for those who love it. I don't think baseball is a sport you can casually watch. I think you have to love it and you have to understand the intricacies of pitching and knowing what's going on. What is that jersey?
It's a D-backs jersey.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. So I once I got started getting into understanding pitching more, I think baseball got a little more exciting for me. Mm-hmm. But if you just view it as a guy who's watching the guy throw the ball and seeing if the batter is going to hit it, then it's not that exciting, right? Because you don't understand the intricacies of what the pitcher's thinking or what he's trying to do or why he threw a ball on purpose or why he threw a ball to make it look like a strike or whatever it may be. So anyway, we're not here to talk about sports. We're here to talk about League of Legends. So I think what is absolutely fantastic about this summer split is that contrary to last split, I am loving every single team numbers 1 through 10. It doesn't matter. Every single team I am finding intriguing in some way, shape, or form. I am not bored by a single team in NA. And honestly, I was finding myself on Monday night after I finished some review of the teams I didn't watch. I found myself wishing, damn, I wish I could watch more NA, which is a total change from 2 months ago when I couldn't
big time.
I couldn't bear watching even my own assignments for NA, and now I'm wishing I could watch more. So I love how NA is shaping out to be. I think it's a lot of fun to watch, and yeah, I mean I still have problems with teams, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'd agree. Honestly, a lot of the games these past couple of weeks have been incredibly entertaining. I think it's really capitalized by the fact that there is no true front runner. Of course, when you look at teams like, Liquid and C9, you start to think of them as the heads. But, I mean, they're still just right there, neck and neck with teams like CLG and Optic and TSM. I mean, this is an incredibly interesting series. Like you said, last year we had, we had playoff teams getting in with a less than 500 record. So, this year to see that everybody is actually like vying for it, and even the teams that aren't, in top contention like FlyQuest are proving to be like pleasant surprises sometimes. You have teams like, what's a good one? You have a team like 100 Thieves, who looks like an absolute crap out in the beginning of the season, and then has a week of resurgence, and then a week of. I mean, I would still think they looked pretty good this week, regardless of their scoreline. But it's just like there's always something to be watching, and so I'm really enjoying it for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
I mean, you guys covered it. But I guess I never shared the sentiment that you had last split, even with the sub 500 teams. Like, yeah, that's not ideal to have in the playoffs, but I kind of just ignored them. I figured they would be out in the first round of the playoffs, and we would have the actual like top tier teams playing against one another. I just enjoy watching the leagues, like both NA and EU. I enjoy, like, I guess because I've been watching them long enough, I have a connection with the teams. So, especially in NA, I have a connection with the teams. Just being from the region myself, and always wishing them well when they play in big tournaments and everything. Despite the records that they have, like being poor in international play, there's always optimism for me that this will be the time, and there's still the realism that it's probably not going to be the time, but there's the hope that it will be. And so yeah, I mean, just every split I tend to enjoy watching it. Now, where I think that I would say it's different maybe this go around is maybe a little bit more of what you're saying. The bottom tier teams playing against the bottom tier teams is actually enjoyable. In previous splits, when the 9th and 10th place teams played, that was the time to walk away from the computer, go get a drink, do something for an hour, and then come back
Go do some laundry
and watch the better teams play, because it was gonna be a shit show. And yeah, sometimes it's still a bit of a shit show, but it's still an entertaining shit show, and those teams are showing that they can also take games off of the better teams here and there for surprise wins. So they're not looking as bad as those previous splits when like your 0-10 team played against your 1-9 team.
So. I think what's cool, even though in this, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with EU, like Fnatic versus Excel was an awesome game. Yeah, Excel lost like they probably should have, but it was still a really awesome game. And there was a certain point when the kills were 10-1 and Excel had 2 turrets, so a 9-kill lead and a 2-turret lead, where you're sitting there and you're like, are they really going to beat Fnatic after Fnatic just decimated G2, right? Like, the thought's there, the hype is there.
And you had that exact feeling this weekend with 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I had that exact feeling with 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. Like, they were up 9-1 against Team Liquid. They had 3 turrets to 1, and I was sitting there like, are they really going to beat Team Liquid? And then they got 2 inhibs down on Team Liquid. I'm like, are they really going to pull this off? And then they got greedy and like...
And then, no.
They got greedy, thought they could end the game without spending their gold, and yeah. But like anyway, and even the same thing with FlyQuest, they just beat Optic this weekend, right? So it's really cool to see like these bottom place teams still competing and still doing well. And that's always like what I liked about Europe is even the 0-6 Excel was fun to watch against Fnatic, which you don't think would happen, but it was fun. In matches like Optic versus FlyQuest, which you would think would really be in Optic's favor, FlyQuest won pretty handily, I would say. And then Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves pretty much won, I would say, 90% of that game. And Liquid, you know how Liquid is. You make a mistake, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So and that's how Team Liquid is. That's always their style. And you can't make a mistake against that team. You have to finish what you start. So I guess that'd be my analysis for 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid.
That's fair.
But, do we want to just kind of jump into this week's games, or did you have more?
Well, real quickly, I wanted to go over the standings and we can go into games. So Tanner mentioned how like equal the standings are right now, and they pretty much are. We have a three-way tie going into 5 weeks of play. We have it between Cloud9, CLG, and Team Liquid. They're all at 7-3. Tied for fourth place is Optic Gaming and TSM at 6-4. Golden Guardians is standing at an even 500, 5-5. That's in sixth place, and then Clutch Gaming is bringing up the rear at 4-6. And even still, it's very possible FlyQuest or 100 Thieves could take away that sixth playoff seat at 3-7. They're only 2 games behind Golden Guardians, and when you have 8 games left, 2 games doesn't look that bad. I mean, Echo Fox is 10th place at 2-8. I haven't like completely written off Echo Fox yet. But I think at 2-8, it's very much you need to finish 10-8 to even have a chance, right? I'm not even saying that they could do it getting 10-8. I'm saying you have a chance at 10-8. So they'd have to go on an 8-0 run. I don't see it happening, but like I'm not writing off any of these NA teams yet. If someone told me that I'm writing off Echo Fox, I'd be like, I agree. If you told me you're writing off FlyQuest or 100 Thieves, I'd be like, I disagree because I can see Golden Guardians faltering in 100 Thieves and FlyQuest surging up a bit.
I think I may have to write off Echo Fox at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can totally
like Solo is. I feel so bad for him. We talk about him every week. He looks so good. He continues to look really good. He's on a team that's just. There's nothing that they're gonna do with the remainder of this split to turn things around. Like they tried the Mike Young switch. It was only a week, so you can't read into it. But like you said, they're so far behind the 8-ball right now that they're not making the playoffs. Like they're not winning every remaining game that they have. It's just very unlikely for them. So I would have to say that if they were maybe sitting at like 4-6, like then I would still give them a chance because they wouldn't have to necessarily win all of their games, but they're just too far behind the 8-ball that I think from what I've seen, and I don't think that Mike Young is necessarily that much of an upgrade over Rush, like to where it's going to drastically change the results that this team sees. I think that I would have to put them in the we'll see you next season bin already.
Yeah, that's fair. And that was the unfortunate part, too. It's just like Mike Young didn't really give that shot in the arm that I was hoping we'd see this week. In fact, it almost looked just as bad, if not worse. So, yeah. Hopefully they can make something out of it, but yeah.
Yep. So, anyways, are there any specific games we want to talk about? There's actually one. No, I mean, there was 2, but I already kind of talked about Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves got a huge lead, and then they gave Team Liquid an inch. Like I said, give Team Liquid an inch, they take a mile.
Also, Team Liquid had Sonatark, and they got to the point of being unkillable. So,
yeah, I was just gonna. My thought going in was 100 Thieves versus TL because that was a really, really fun game to watch back and forth, like pretty much a lot. And then 100 Thieves late game looked like they were gonna take it. TL, classic TL. Really fun time watching that game. I'm sure there's a game that's sticking out in both of your minds that you guys will probably want to talk, if not argue about. So before you guys do that, I guess my biggest thing was...
the one that I said would rub in his face on this show.
I guess the biggest thing for me...
I've got a rebuttal.
The biggest thing for me coming out of this week was just kind of... I was really impressed with FlyQuest, and I think that was kind of... I can't even just talk about one of their games because both of their games, they looked kind of a lot like the Fly Coalesce that we were expecting to see from last season. And they had a dominating presence in both of their games whatsoever. Didn't really shake them at all. So I'm looking forward to them. And then the other thing was, I was going to say Firefox. But Echo Fox, yeah, there we go. Echo Fox versus Golden Guardians was a game that I wanted to touch on, not because it was good viewing. I don't think it really was. I didn't have a lot of fun watching this game, but I think it kind of exemplifies how bad Echo Fox is right now and how meh I am on Golden Guardians coming out of this week, because Golden Guardians, I would not say Golden Guardians won that game. Echo Fox put it on a silver platter, hammed it up, put the whipped cream on top, and then gave it to Golden Guardians. And Golden Guardians had trouble grabbing it. Like, they grabbed it, but you know,
it slipped out of their hands once.
Yeah,
but they caught it.
It didn't look pretty at all. Like Golden Guardians had all the chances in the world to just kind of close that game out, and it seemed like they were hesitating too. So I think coming out of those, I'm a little hesitant on both of those teams, and that's going to show in my predictions, I think. But other than that, I'll give you guys the floor.
No, we're not going there yet.
Okay,
Sanders,
we
hold
are.
back real fast.
No, we are. No.
No, I had something to add to one of
Fine.
the FlyQuest games. The thing I wanted to add is Pobelter still kind of looks like a little bit of the weak link for the team. At points, he was dying where I would think a lot of other mid laners in the league, at least in the top half, like they wouldn't have been dying. He was overextending at points. He was just making bad decisions. And so I'm not going to like, we always talk about reading too much into things. I'm not going to read too much into the fact that they beat Echo Fox, who I just said I'm writing off. And then Optic was like, that was a big win for them, but it's not your Team Liquid, CLG, Cloud9 right now. So if they beat one of those teams, then I might be a little more convinced. And we have the opportunity to see that this coming weekend because they play Team Liquid. So there's that. And again, before you start gloating, the other game that I'm surprised that we hadn't talked about, and I'm really surprised Tanner didn't bring up is, well, actually, I guess I'm less surprised because of the outcome. Team Liquid versus C9. We all were wrong on our prediction on that game.
I felt so ashamed when I watched that.
It was probably
the
game that everybody hyped up the most because of the two teams that were playing, and Cloud9 came in and took care of Team Liquid. I honestly can't say that I remember too many details from the game because it's been since the weekend since I saw it, and
there's one major detail, and that's Kumo is an absolute beast.
Oh,
that
Kumo
was insane, man.
Jace. Oh
that
my
was
god,
fantastic play from. I mean, to be
told
that you're going to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, the Jordan Peele gif. The one where he's has sweat rolling down his face.
Oh yeah.
That was Licorice watching those games. He was like, "Oh shit, I might get replaced."
Yeah, that guy was good. That was.
Oh my god.
I mean, that's just what C9 does, though. They bring up talent and they come out of seemingly nowhere, and all of a sudden, you throw them on the Rift, and you're like, "Who the hell's this? Where did Licorice go?"
Well, Licorice was sick. He has some wrist issues, but
I mean, like, you're gonna you continue to see this Cloud9. They show new talent, and eventually, like, their other really good talent goes elsewhere, and typically they don't look quite as good. But it's also a really good thing for the league, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. Like, when that happens, you see better talent being spread around the league, and we hopefully eventually will get to a point where, like, the league will be super competitive across the board. Like, we will kind of have what we have now, but like even better.
I would definitely argue that Cloud9 isn't getting rid of the best top laner. And
I don't think that's.
But I know where you're coming from because they did it with Smoothie and same with Zazal, and these other things too. Of course, there were
talking about down the road. You're going to see it can happen, especially if Kumo or however you say it, continues to play and gets minutes. Like, there will be a point where Licorice's contract will run out, and he may not want to be the backseat or share the seat with another player and want to go to another team where he will for sure be the starter because he is one of the best. We've seen it with other players in the past, so I fully expect.
So as come to mind.
Yep, exactly. So, I'm not saying that they're gonna trade him or that he's out because of one weekend, especially if he did have some issues that he was dealing with. But, it could also go the other way. If Kuma really is that good, another team might inquire about him and make Jack an offer he can't refuse, or he might not be under contract that long. Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say his future personally as a player is definitely gonna look bright, especially if he continues, like regardless if that's with C9 or not.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
all right, the floor is yours, Sanders.
One last thing I'd like to comment on that because you talked about Cloud9, is you do recognize that if Niski didn't want to play, they still have Golden Glue. And Svenskeren didn't want to play, they have Blabber. And
yeah, that's not. I don't think that great of a substitute.
No. But no, if they didn't want to play Licorice, they can play Kumo. They've shown in 3 different positions they can play a different player.
And if Sneaky doesn't want to play, they can play Keith.
Yeah. Let's slow down here for a second. Keith might go
0-10 again.
Keith might be the Academy god, but he certainly doesn't translate it till the LCS.
No, it doesn't.
Unfortunately, yeah, exactly. The last time I was really hyped about Keith was when he was on TSM, actually. I think that was the last time I actually really enjoyed Keith. But
I can't say that I even remember that.
that was when there was the whole Wild Turtle debacle. When they were like benching Wild Turtle for a little bit and they brought in Keith and whatnot, and Keith actually did pretty well. But what I was saying though is it's mind blowing to me that like Reaper has all these tools and all these players to say I can make pretty much any composition I want with any style of players, because they've all at one point had success. I would say Blabber's probably the least successful of them, but even then Blabber's had some success. Golden Glue has had some success, and now Kumo has shown some success, right? All small sample sizes, but I think it shows much to the coaching in the organization that they can pretty much just say, hey, we can't deal with a player this week, and it's not an automatic loss. It actually looks pretty good still. So that's awesome. I love that. I kind of wish I could see that more from other teams. I mean, no other team is doing it right now, so.
All right, now I gotta go for a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so I'm not gonna like rub it in his face like I said I was. I did that prior to us starting the podcast, but I am gonna say that I was gonna say something about it. CLG did lose to TSM like I thought they would, because honestly it was bound to happen at some point. I think the CLG team is a very top team and probably one of the better CLG teams we've seen in forever. Before someone, and I'm sure this was in the Twitch chat too, and Jamie brought it up too. Before someone goes, well, they didn't have a marksman on their cup, so it
that
doesn't
is
really
not what
count.
I'm gonna say. It's just that it's kind of what I'm gonna say.
We didn't have a marksman. Dan wasn't playing a marksman. Dan was playing Yasuo. No, let me tell you something. I actually really like comp that TSM brought out here. So they picked Yasuo Gragas for their first 2 picks, and that's a massive flex. You could have Gragas jungle, you could have Gragas support, you could have Gragas top lane. There's a lot of flexing here, and then they picked Yasuo, which basically meant we're telling you nothing. Good luck guessing CLG. So what they said is they were like, all right, we're just going to pick Sivir Yumi. Relatively safe lane, right? The only thing you're kind of giving away there is you have a scaling bot lane. And then eventually they picked Aatrox, Sylas, and Corki on CLG side. Whereas on TSM side, it was Kennen, Jarvan, Cassiopeia, and Yasuo Gragas bot lane. I really like this team comp by TSM. I honestly think it's a massive wombo combo team composition where you have the Kennen, you have the Jarvan, the Cassiopeia, you have the Yasuo, and you have the Gragas. Like, this is all AoE that all works with each other, and theoretically, TSM should never lose a team fight here. The problem is, though, is that CLG, and I really like the aggressiveness, too, because this is a comp where you need to make aggressive plays to work. So I like that TSM was going for this. This is what I wanted from TSM. CLG kind of has the same thing, though, right, with the Sylas and with the Aatrox. Maybe not so much the Corki and the Sivir, but what made CLG's comp work was that they have the aggressive styles by Ruin and Wiggly, and Wiggly really popped off this game with the Sylas jungle. If you're not playing it solo queue, by the way, I highly recommend Sylas jungle. The shit's way too good. It's nuts. But and that I think was a problem that like TSM had, was they had the comp to be aggressive. Wiggly just outdid Acadian here. And one comment I would like to make here, I like that TSM played Acadian both games this week. I think that's the right move. I think that's what they needed to do to go from here. I'm glad they
I'm
recognized
telling
that.
you right now, don't read too much into it.
I'm glad they did it. I think
I'm glad they did too. It's just I don't think that it's going to be I think next week you're going to see Greg at one point.
if I see him at one point, I hope he loses. It's not the answer for TSM, but they went 1-1 with him, which is fine. I think the takeaway here to me isn't so much TSM. Actually, I thought TSM did fine in the draft phase, and I thought they made mistakes in game. And that's just shit that they need to work on and fix. But I like the attempts they're making here. My big problem that I have, not big problem, my big compliment that I have though is for CLG here. They took 2 scaling champions, right? And that's when I kind of like thought to myself, I'm like, well, I think TSM has the better comp to be aggressive, right? And unless like Ruin pops off, I don't know how they win the early game, right? And then I was answered by Wiggly. I am so impressed with how Wiggly has done the split. If you want to watch his 2v1 versus Bjergsen and Cadian, you should. It was awesome. He basically came from the jaws of life because Silas's healing is dumb as hell.
Is
on his
stupid as shit.
It's stupid as shit. I know from playing it in solo queue. I will literally walk up to someone with 50% health knowing I'm going to recover half of that in that fight. I'm so ballsy with Silas. It's ridiculous. But, you know, and I don't want to overaddress like CLG here. I think they had a strong game. I really like what we're seeing. They're 7-3. I like that they're playing multiple styles. And they played it against a quality opponent in TSM. I really want to see CLG do this against like Team Liquid or Cloud9, you know? I think TSM was that bar they had to pass, and now the next one is C9 versus TSM, but I have certainly bought into this team now. I have really enjoyed their play, and they're honestly, I think at this point, a contender for not Worlds, not yet, but they are a contender like in the playoffs. I imagine seeing them at semifinals minimum at this point.
Okay, I was expecting much worse. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I'm not gonna be mean.
But so I agree that CLG looked really good. I also have bought into this team.
Yasuo.
I'm getting there. They did. I mean, Wiggly has continued this split to impress me. I remember it was like week 2 or 3 when I remember a play that he made on Sejuani that was like kind of my moment of like, oh shit, this kid looks pretty good, and he's continued from there to continued to look good. So I'm definitely impressed. But yes, the one place that you are wrong is I still believe that CSM wins this game if Sven does not play Yasuo. Sven is a great player, but he's like reckless. He plays marksman, and he only plays marksman. Putting him on a champion that has to be in the middle of everything when he is used to playing a champion that has to skirt around the fight and not get hit by things is like trying to tell me, who plays nothing but melee champions, to play a marksman. And I can tell you right now how poorly that would go. You would see me standing in the middle of the entire enemy team because that's what I'm used to.
Melee ranged. I love it.
Yeah, well, my teammates don't.
Wait. What's so different? That's what Sven did when he threw the finals.
Ouch.
Ouch.
My TL fan and that hurt. Jesus.
TL fan and that hurt.
But no, nothing will convince me otherwise that if Sven does not play Yasuo, that they have a much better chance of beating CLG. I literally think that they threw the game away when they put Sven on Yasuo. If I wanted to be like Cole, with the TSM, I'd be like, they did it purposely because they just were tired of beating him all the time.
No one beat CLG 1170 days. You know what's so funny? So Cole actually called me a couple hours ago, right? And he literally said, he's like, "Oh yeah, congrats to CLG, by the way." I'm like, "Well, I'm not a fanboy, but like, yeah, whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, no one beats CLG 1170 days in a row. Got an inch on Yasuo." And I'm like, "Oh my god."
That sounds so much like Cole. I love it.
And that's exactly what he told me.
I believe it 100%. But no, I think that they saw C9 play the Gragas Yasuo comp. I think they were like, I think like you said, I think that they are trying to, broaden their champion horizons and play new strategies and everything and everything. But this strategy, in my opinion, will never work for them unless you put Bjergsen or Broken Blade on Yasuo. Like, Sven has to play something ranged. If you want to, mix it up with him, put him on
Cannon.
Well, on a mage or something. Like if you're trying to get him out of his comfort zone or whatnot. But I don't see melee being the answer for him ever. He's not Piglet. Like, that's the only way Piglet's good anymore. So
Yes.
it's putting him on a melee champion. That's not Sven. Sven will, like, I'd rather see him subbed out than playing a melee champion. So there's the one thing. Back to the Acadian thing, I agree with you, and they even talked a little bit about it on the desk, or it was during the dive. I don't remember, but the analysts agree with you too. They think that they need to just choose one, and they believe that Acadian's the right choice as well. I agree with that, but this is the thing that I've learned about TSM over the last 4 years or whatever. They are extremely stubborn when they decide to do something, and they have decided that they are going to mix it up in the jungle position by rotating in and out Acadian and Grig. And because of that, I do not expect them to choose one and play the remainder of the split with that player. I would love if they did, because I agree with you 100% that I would love to see Acadian probably would be my choice as well. With the team for the remainder of the split, we saw how successful it was last split, and he's just the more aggressive player, which it fits the meta right now. But I don't expect it because TSM is hard-headed. Even when things aren't working, they continue to try to make them work because they made the decision at the beginning of the split, even if it's suboptimal for the current meta or it's just not working. So I fully expect to see Grig. I expect to see him as early as next week. I wouldn't be surprised if he played both of the games because Acadian played both of the games this week. Is there anything else on this particular game? I think that if you are correct about the champion picks and it being a good comp, which I get, I understand what you're saying about it being a definite big wombo comp.
Oh, I love this comp. If G2 played this, I'd be like, hell yeah, they're popping off.
That's exactly right. If you put it in the hands of a different team, I would agree that this comp is could be a good comp. I think
the comp is good overall in general. And if you're telling me you don't want to see TSM do this because it's not them, this goes back to the conversation of I don't want to see them at Worlds then. Because not doing this shit.
That's fair. It's not that I don't want to see them do different things. I just don't want to see them do this. I don't like seeing Bjergsen on Cassiopeia. That's more of a Jensen pick. I know that Bjergsen played it a ton too when it was super popular, but that is not a super popular pick right now, and I think Bjergsen carries games much harder on other champions. I would love to watch Broken Blade play like an Aatrox. It's been a long ass time since I've seen that, and I think that Aatrox is still extremely powerful. I don't even remember what he played. Was it Gangplank?
He played
Oh, he
Kennen
played
versus
Kennen. That's right. Yeah, that's to me. That's not a broken. Like, I feel like you can still play what you're comfortable with while experimenting, but I feel like they went out of their comfort zone, like really
Well,
far.
I mean, he's been playing Kennen for a while and had success on it. Bjergsen plays a lot of Cassiopeia. None of this comp was weird except for the
Cassiopeia,
bot.
just not this split. This is, I'm pretty sure, his first game on Cassiopeia this split, isn't it?
I think this is the first Cassiopeia we saw in NA, if we're being honest.
Right. And so that's kind of where I'm standing, is we're seeing a lot of like stuff that you're not seeing any other team play, including the best teams in our region and Team Liquid and C9. I don't think that it's the right move to try to bring something that like nobody else is playing in. Now I wonder if Korea or something is playing it. If that's the case, that's typical TSM. They're going to pull everything they can from the Koreans, even though right now they have not proven to be the strongest region for a little while now, even though they did just win their Rift rivals.
Well, let's calm down for a second and let's put in a third opinion, because that's what Tanner is supposed to be here for. What do you think of TSM?
I mean, I'm a little mixed on them because their first game this week against, oh man, I'm drawing a blank.
100 Thieves.
100 Thieves, thank you.
100
Thieves did not look bad in that game. I just would have chalked that game up to TSM being the dominant force the entire time, and they looked solid the entire time. So, even with this kind of stumble against CLG, I don't have too many fears for them. I'm going to kind of agree with Selceus on the fact that I want to see Sven on non-Yasuo kind of like, I want to see regular 80 carries for him. But at the same time, that does speak a lot to about, what does win in this kind of meta. If we look at G2 and we look at, teams that are willing to step outside the box, I mean, like, I know Sonateric isn't like a huge step outside the box, but, you look at team like TS or TL who's able to play that strategy well, and kind of adapt to other strategies. It does kind of beg the question of whether TSM has the viability to move forward and kind of compete in the international stage. So for this year, I'm not too worried for them. I still think they'll make playoffs, obviously, but it's tough. I don't think there's a real easy way to answer it for TSM, and that's kind of the hard part, because you're probably right. It's possible that they do keep switching back from Acadian and Grig, and I think if they do that, I mean, you put in Grig and you stick with him, and I think you have good NA success, but less so like in international, and then opposite for Acadian. So I don't know. I'm not Reginald. I'm not coaching the team. So hopefully they kind of pick one and stick with it. But it's kind of like a point of it's like a limbo point, honestly, for TSM, and I think they need to kind of pick which way they're gonna go on it.
I will tell you, as the resident TSM fan, that I'm in that boat too. I'm worried, and I have been most of the split. I'm still hoping to see that switch get flipped, and for them to look like the second half of spring split all over again. But they are not doing a good job of convincing me that switch is getting flipped anytime soon.
So we saw it in playoffs, right? We saw Team Liquid versus TSM. We saw TSM versus Cloud9, and both those were very close series, right? Mm-hmm. One where TSM came out on top, and one where Team Liquid didn't. If I were a TSM fan, I think if I played Cloud9 and Liquid again, I'd be like, we could beat them, but I'm worried we won't, right?
Right now, I don't think we beat C9.
Oh, wow. What about Team Liquid?
Well, we wouldn't have gotten to Team Liquid if we didn't beat C9.
Well, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about, like, you have a semifinals matchup.
If we had a best of 5 against either of those teams right now, I think that we get our asses kicked.
I think it's possible to beat them.
I definitely think it's possible, and I think that if you wanted me to put a percentage on it, I give TSM 30, like a third. Like I give them a 30 to 33% chance
Okay, so
in both of those series.
So here's my big question, though, right? Because I'm gonna ask you about 4 teams, right? And Team Liquid versus Cloud9, I kind of already covered because I was like, well, we've already played them before. We see what they can do. There's a possibility to win it, but if I were a TSM fan, I'd be worried, right? Um, if I met CLG or Optic in the semifinals, let's say, I think even so, I think TSM very easily could beat CLG or very easily could beat Optic, but even so, there'd be a part of me that would be like, what if we don't show up?
100% agree.
Or what if that's the day that CLG goes all out aggressive and TSM can't handle that because that's not their play style? Or that's the day that Meteos pops off and neither Acadian nor Grig can handle that because Meteos is just that amazing, right? And TSM, again, doesn't have early game answers to aggressive junglers. So
sure. I mean, there's lots of scenarios you can throw out there where I could see TSM not winning against either of those teams. So I agree 100% with you where it's like I totally think that they could beat both of those teams. I would definitely give them more than a 50% chance on both, like in both of those best of 5 series. Because part of what we're seeing during the regular season is best of 1s. And so CLG beating TSM in a best of 1, especially when they hadn't done it in 1,200 days until this
1,170. Excuse you.
I'm rounding up. I will not, like, a best of 5 is a completely different beast, and so we haven't
would you still be worried?
Well, we haven't seen this CLG or this Optic in a best of 5, so yes, I would definitely still be worried. But I would be a lot more optimistic going into a series against either of those two teams right now.
Of course, there's always optimism allowed, but I was like wondering, like, for you as a fan, like if I was a fan, I'd be worried. I'd be like, we probably beat this team, but I'm still worried we could lose.
Yeah, no, this entire split has been worry now. Like I've been.
All right, gotcha. So let's just get into our predictions. We've already been on NA for about 35.
All right, real fast before we start, I'll go over last week's picks. So it looks like Sanders, you went 6-4. Blitz, you had a tough one.
Yeah, I assume. I didn't look yet, but I know my picks were probably pretty off.
You went 3-7. The community, which, by the way, again, we did only have one person participate. I'm expecting that has a little bit to do with the fact that it was a holiday.
4th of July.
But I'm going to real fast shout out this person. So, T-Hubs on our Discord. Thank you for participating.
It wasn't Ramanujan? Oh.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too, because it's usually the guy that did it last time that I probably butchered his name when I said it, which is why I'm not saying it right now. But he was the one who he was the only one who predicted the C9 over Team Liquid last week. So congrats to him, and also a big shout out and thanks to him for participating. But FlyQuest, boys, that was the difference for me. That and TSM in the 100 Thieves game, because I was the only one who picked all 3 of those matches. I went 8-2 this week. So nice. Definitely got back into it because I'm now 1 game ahead of Sanders in the overall NA standings. 28-22 for myself, 27-23 for Sanders. Community's at 25-25, and Blitz, you are 24-26 because that last week really hurt you.
Understandable.
All right, gotcha. So first game, TSM versus Clutch Gaming. So last week I picked 100 Thieves to beat TSM. I also picked CLG to beat TSM. Frankly, as much as I kind of doubt TSM at times, as much as I talked about them possibly losing to CLG or Optic in a best of 5, they're not losing to Clutch Gaming. I really liked the way TSM looked this weekend, both in their win and their loss. I like the way they drafted in the first game. And I like the way they drafted in the second game. Both drafts I thought were creative. I thought they were different, and that's the TSM I want to see. So if I continue to see that, I'm going to be high on this TSM. They just need to win more, obviously, right? So they can do it here. TSM.
Yeah.
Clutch Gaming also had a bad
my faith is tested with the TSM team for sure, and I am worried about them, but I definitely have enough faith to believe that they're going to beat Clutch Gaming, even though Clutch Gaming has looked better in recent weeks. They did also just lose to CLG, which, I guess so they share that with TSM last week, and then they lost to Cloud9. They should lose to both of those teams, but they should also lose to TSM, so I'll pick TSM as well.
Yeah, CG looked way too scattered for me this week, and even though TSM looked, like that game against CLG might have been a little rough, they still looked really good against 100 Thieves, so I'll still take TSM.
Cool. So the next matchup is a very, very exciting matchup that I am hyped for. This is the game of the day for me. It's Team Liquid versus CLG. I'm throwing the first matchup out the window. That was when we saw a CLG we didn't really know, and a Team Liquid we didn't really know either. Now, Team Liquid's gotten their shit together. They've looked vulnerable, but they've gotten their shit together. And CLG is just seemingly on a rampage. I understand they have the same record, but CLG is on a rampage, like, in comparison to what they were before, if that makes any sense. So, I love this bot lane matchup. Stixay and Biofrost versus Doublelift and
Core JJ.
Core JJ. I was about to say Ole. I'm like, that's not it. Versus Core JJ, like, nope. The MVP of the team. No, anyway, I certainly give like the bot lane to Team Liquid, but I'm certainly not going to laugh at Stixay and Biofrost the way that they did this weekend. I think the most intriguing matchup here is Xmithy versus Wiggly. I think last weekend Xmithy kind of like had a somewhat down week, and Wiggly had like the highest high week. He was named the LCS Player of the Week. Out of 50 players, he was named the number one Player of the Week. So Wiggly riding a very high, Xmithy experiencing a bit of a low, and I think Ruin versus Impact is very entertaining as well. I think the one thing is like mid lane, you have like Jensen versus Power Evil. Definitely give that to Jensen. There's a case to be made for CLG here, and I think the favorite is Team Liquid. I don't know who to pick.
Do you need a coin?
I'm honestly thinking I'm going to pick CLG simply because I think jungle advantage is super important here. I think in where you need to be able to beat Jensen and Impact, right? If you have the better jungler to put your laners ahead, that only helps you, right? So Smithy's still a top jungler for me, but Wiggly's on just a super high, and I guess I'm going with the hot hand, is what you call it. I think in a best of 5, I give this to Team Liquid 3-1. But because this is a best of 1, and CLG has the hot hand, I'm going with the hot hand. That makes sense.
All right. Yeah, I think that's fair. So my prediction almost comes down to picks. Biofrost gets to play the little cat that I can't think of the name. Yuumi. I think that they have a much better shot. And I guess the way that Team Liquid has been playing Sona Taric, like, I feel like if they get that, then they probably are going to win, even though 100 Thieves did definitely give them a run for their money when they were playing that duo. I do also have a lot of faith in the CLG team, so it's very tempting to
keep
take
the faith.
them. It's tempting to take them. And TL did look a little shaky last week. They looked like they had a rough time against 100 Thieves, and they did lose to C9. I don't know, man. I think I'm still
really
gonna. I gotta go with the team that like has been the top of this. Like, we consider them the favorites to win the region again. Even with the downfalls that we've seen from them here and there, and I'm gonna pick Team Liquid. I definitely think that the mid lane matchup is in the favor of Team Liquid. I think that Impact against Ruin is also as much as Ruin has looked good, I still would probably give the edge to Impact because this is the type of matchup where Impact just like comes out and looks amazing. Like he's like, I've been here doing this a long time and you're kind of like a rookie essentially. Like I know he's played for a while, but like, and you've looked impressive, but let me just show you how to sit the fuck down. And I don't know. It's kind of a feeling that I think that's what's going to happen with
an Impact pop-off game coming in.
Yeah, so Team Liquid is my pick, and I assume that I can just write down Tanner's.
It definitely was. It's definitely an interesting choice for sure. I think there's a lot to be said about Wiggly and how good he was last week. But if stubbornly picking TSM in the face of 100 Thieves worked for Selceus, I'm gonna stubbornly pick TL in the face of a resurging CLG. So I will stick by him. Plus, I do agree that the other lane matchups outside of the jungle should favor TL, but I think this will be a close game for sure.
I definitely expect some fireworks out of this one. Like, I don't really care who wins this one, but if I get some fireworks out of it, I'll be excited either way.
If this is like a 2,000 goal difference for the like 25 minutes, like I feel like we're gonna get a good game. And like it's not gonna be a because nobody's doing anything. It's gonna be a because that's how closely matched these teams are.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. Shocking too, because I really hate CLG's head coach. But hey, if they're doing well, they're doing well, right? Maybe he finally learned how the game of League of Legends actually works.
Well, I mean, he is not the only one on the stage, so
I know, but he is still the head coach. The next option is Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest. I'm going to tell you right now, I just don't like Golden Guardians, and I really like the way FlyQuest looked last week. And I'm going to say something that Kobe said in the dive last week that actually put my thoughts directly into how I view this FlyQuest team. Because like even at 1-5, I was like, how are they 1-5, right? And Kobe said on the dive for you, he's like, well, they went 1-1. They went 0-2 one week, and it was like, oh, rough start, whatever, right? And then they were 1-3, and it was like, well, at least they won a game. And then they were 1-5, and it's like, ooh, they're encountering some bad games, right? And he didn't say this specifically. He's like, but every week Kobe's like, oh man, that's just some bad luck and bad games. But they're looking pretty decent in their losses. And then suddenly they're 1-7, and I'm like, wait, we're 4 weeks in. How did that happen? Right? And that's exactly how I felt about FlyQuest. So I think Kobe and I think alike when it comes to FlyQuest. This is a roster that's better than 3-7, but that's just where they're at right now. And Golden Guardians is a roster that looks just at 5-5, or maybe even worse. Maybe just their early streak with Tom Kench was what got them there, and that's it. So I'm picking FlyQuest because I actually think they're the better team than Golden Guardians.
I almost expect this to be a sweep because I'm also picking FlyQuest. They won both of their games last week, and Golden Guardians. I mean, I haven't had a ton of faith in them since the beginning of this split. They came out, surprised me a little bit, but since then they have done nothing but be mediocre, in my opinion, at best. And this last week was no exception. So because of that, I think that FlyQuest should be able to handle them. I guess if there's a get back on track kind of game for Golden Guardians, we have to remember that this was a matchup from the playoffs last split, right? And like these teams played each other extremely close. Like played 7 games or something like that, and it was 4-3 or whatever. Like it was very close. So these teams know each other. They didn't really change much roster wise, if that I can remember. They played each other very closely.
There's what eating FlyQuest, and that's it.
Yeah, last split. And so I expect this to actually be another very close game, just like the CLG Team Liquid game. But yeah, I guess I got to ride the hot hand with FlyQuest. I'm going to pick them.
Yeah, unlike CLG for me, I'm also going to ride the hot hand here and pick FlyQuest. I mean, Golden Guardians, I was just not convinced by them at all, even though they won against Echo Fox. I just didn't like it. So FlyQuest for sure.
I'm gonna assume the next one we got is a sweep.
Sweep for Cloud9 against Echo
Mhm.
Fox. Yeah. Don't really need to talk about that one. All right. Next one is Optic versus 100 Thieves. I think there's a huge case to be made for 100 Thieves. They're fantastic against Liquid till they gave Liquid an inch. And they looked pretty okay against TSM, but then TSM just ended up being the better team. And playing out their comp, I think, a bit better. There were cases where I think if 100 Thieves did something differently, they win the game, but TSM just outplayed them. And in Optic, you have the same kind of competition, right? In that TSM area, with Optic being at 6-4, just like TSM, and Optic, I would say, being more or less pretty consistent in what they're trying to do. I really want to pick 100 Thieves here. Matchup wise, I really like Crown over Ryu, and I also really like Meteos over God.
Onda?
Yes, Honda. So I mean, I guess the one thing you could say is you have like Arrow and Big versus Bang and Aframu, which is clearly favors Bang and Aframu. But even on the top side, like you have two like former Academy players in Alarm versus Fake God. These are two guys who have faced each other multiple times. I kind of wish I knew what their record was against each other to see like how that matchup is, but I don't know what it is because I don't watch Academy. So it could be a wash like roster wise, but I think I really favor Optic in this one. Oh, and it's not it's amazing. It's amazing. I still favor Meteos over Amazing.
Oh, true.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
Amazing has done well. He has done well, but I still favor Meteos over Amazing. And this isn't to say I don't believe 100 Thieves can't win this game. I fully believe they can win this game, but I think it favors Optic.
Yeah.
Tanner?
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely going to take the more proven kind of team in Optic over, still a couple question marks for 100 Thieves. I mean, they looked good, but I think we might just be starting to realize that, NA's talent is just kind of on a level now where even where 100 Thieves, if they're playing well, may still not be good enough to beat the top teams in NA. So, and I've really liked what I've seen out of Optic. I think Meteos, he had another fantastic week last week with his play, so I was really impressed by that. But yeah, give me Optic all the way here.
Like Sanders, I also really want to pick 100 Thieves because of how impressive they've looked over the last 2 weeks, even though they have a 500 record. They really did look good in the 2 games that they had last week, which which everybody has to remember were against top tier talent. So even though they lost both of them, like they probably should have lost both of them, even if they were a top 5 team. So I really, really want to pick 100 Thieves. It's just the Meteos factor for me that's making me hesitate. Now I will say,
Goddamn Meteos, no matter what team he's on.
I kind of forgot that Amazing was like, I still did have Onda in my mind, and I was like, when it was Onda, there's no doubt in my mind, like Meteos definitely greater than Onda, and I would think that Meteos alone could have swung the pendulum in Optic's favor. Up against Amazing, I think it's a lot closer. Like, I still probably give the edge to Meteos, but Amazing has looked really good. I do like Crown over Ryu. The top lane is a wash. And honestly, I think Arrow and Big have looked pretty decent. So, like, this game is almost a coin flip to me. So if it comes down to the jungle, do I think that the slight edge in Meteos' favor is good enough to give them the pick? And to be honest, because it is a coin flip, and I like to make the one upset pick, I'm gonna pick 100 Thieves.
All right, sounds interesting.
I really do think that this is kind of a coin flip game. So I will not be surprised if Optic wins, but 100 Thieves will be my choice.
So the very next game is FlyQuest versus Team Liquid. Now, I actually looked at this matchup and thought to myself, I might pick FlyQuest. I'm not picking Team Liquid to go 0-2. And if I'm going to pick FlyQuest to beat Team Liquid or CLG to beat Team Liquid, I'm going to pick CLG over FlyQuest to beat Team Liquid. So, as much as I'd love to pick FlyQuest here and think to myself, maybe they could make their, dreams come true, the 11-7 dream, as Wild Turtle said, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, Team Liquid's just a better team. That's really what it comes down to. So,
since I'm also picking Team Liquid, I'm going to assume that we can sweep this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think that Team Liquid has looked shaky again. I mentioned it, especially last week, losing a game and then being down to 100 Thieves. So FlyQuest, I definitely can see winning the game, but same reason I picked Team Liquid over CLG, I'm going to pick them over FlyQuest.
Cool. Next matchup is definitely a good matchup. It's Cloud9 versus TSM. Honestly, this is a tough one to pick. You have your Licorice versus Broken Blade. You have not Jensen. You have Niski versus Bjergsen. Svenskeren versus Acadian. I'm assuming Acadian. And you have Sneaky and Zazal versus Sven and Smoothie. Not Sven and Smoothie. Sven and...
No, you're right, Smoothie.
No, yeah, Smoothie. Yeah. Yes. I still got this point in my head. I promise I know these rosters. Such a hard
I'll go first.
Okay, sure.
Everybody's expecting me to pick TSM, but I'm not. I'm picking C9. C9 looks just beat Team Liquid, the team that I have picked to go 2-0 this week because I still have them as the top team in the region. C9 look impressive beating them. Even though TSM did beat C9 in their first matchup, I think that what I've seen from TSM and the worry that I have for them continuing this late into the season, we are now in the back half and TSM has not eased my mind really at all. And C9 continues to look like they will, be atop the standings for this region. It's actually a very easy pick for me to pick C9.
Yeah, I agree. C9 is, I think, just looked better overall. They're coming off of the Rift Rivals break looking really hot, which was good. And I don't know. I just don't see a world. I mean, I see a world where TSM can win, but I think it's more likely that C9 just continues rolling, and TSM, especially if they kind of have some jungler troubles and maybe even switch in Gregor, they still don't know what they're doing there. I definitely give the advantage to C9.
What you thinking, Sanders?
I'm going to go with my original thought when I first saw this matchup a few hours ago, and I looked at it. I'm like, oh, Cloud9 wins that easily. I didn't even give TSM a thought, and then I was like, maybe I should give TSM a thought. And then I gave TSM a thought, and I was like...
I shouldn't give TSM a thought.
but I'm going to give it to Cloud9. It's so weird how Cloud9's a top-performing team, but I always feel like they're under the radar when it comes to top teams because they're never the top team, right?
I can understand that. That seems legit.
If I made a football comparison, it'd be like Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He just threw for 5,108 yards last year, and some people won't even put him in their top 5 quarterback list. And I'm just like, you're insane. This guy performs every year. He does well, and yet we just don't talk about him that much, right? He's got leadership questions, and I agree with that, but... and Cloud9's kind of in the same thing. They have solid performing players every year. Svenskeren usually does well all the time in the last 2 years. Sneaky does well every year. Doesn't matter what year we're talking about. He's doing well every year. We never talk about Sneaky. This is just a team we don't talk about. We never talk about them until playoffs comes around, and I don't know why. And I'm not talking about just us three. I'm talking about the community as a whole. Cloud9's just always under the radar. Zero clue why. Maybe it's just they've always been a consistent organization. They were, they won the first 4 splits, right? Or is it 3? They won the first 3 LCS splits.
I don't know. It's been a long time since they've won one, though.
Yeah, I forgot, but like maybe it's because they've always been a dominating factor that we just take it for granted. But like, yeah, they picked up right where they left off from summer split, from spring split at the beginning of the summer split, and here they are at 7-3, and I think they'll progress to 9-3 this week.
I've already written in the next matchup.
CLG versus Guardians, we all better be friggin' picking CLG.
Yep.
I don't think any of us are impressed with Golden Guardians and CLG.
100 Thieves versus Echo Fox. I have a feeling this is a sweep too for 100 Thieves. Damn, we're sweeping for 100 Thieves. Would we have said this 2 weeks ago?
No, I don't think so.
No, probably not.
Probably not. Amazing how things change. But,
wow, I think the next one.
In all fairness, too, Fox just looks that bad.
So. I agree. And 100 Thieves at least is showing some signs of life. Especially with Ryu in the mid lane. I really liked that. It's kind of weird because I always thought like getting rid of Ryu was an answer for 100 Thieves, and now bringing him back is what looks like the answer.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like get rid of Ryu. That's the answer. Nah, bring Ryu back. That's the answer. Last one is Clutch Gaming versus Optic. Honestly, I'd love to give Clutch Gaming a shot here. But I think what really deterred me on like Clutch Gaming was they lost to CLG and Cloud9. I get that. Like, that's some hard competition. I'm not going to fault you for losing to CLG and Cloud9, but they got decimated by Cloud9. Like, it wasn't close. It was an ass-kicking. I'll just say what it was. It was an ass-kicking. And then they looked a little okay against CLG, but they only had, like, up to a 1,500 gold lead against CLG, but CLG also had 4 dragons in return and 2 turrets in return. And even though like Clutch Gaming was up in kills, like CLG had covered all the objectives. So it's like, okay, cool, you're up in kills in CS, but what does that matter if your opponent is still making up for it in objectives? So what looked close like on stats, and even in gold when Clutch Gaming was ahead 1,500 gold, CLG had control of the map. And that's super important in games as well. And then CLG turned it around and won the game after a team fight. So they didn't get decimated by CLG, but they certainly got beat pretty handedly. When you're giving up 4 dragons, even if they are just 3 cloud drakes in 1 ocean, if you're giving up 4 dragons, I think that's a problem. So, yeah, they probably lose this one to Optic too.
Yeah, I actually assumed this one was a sweep too, because Optic definitely looks to be a top half of the standings team, and Clutch looks to be just under the top half. Like,
and Clutch looked really scattered last week. I was not impressed with any of their play. Meanwhile, Optic just continues to wow. So
they look solid. So that ends it up for predictions. But I got one question for you guys, and I think this is an interesting topic since we don't have EU, and then we can close it out. We'll still be under what our normal time is. I think we maybe not, but we may come into agreement that Guardians probably isn't our 6th playoff team. They might be, but they probably aren't according to our feelings right now. So they're sitting at 5-5. Clutch Gaming is sitting in 7th place at 4-6, and then tied at 8th or 9th, whatever you want to call it, is FlyQuest and 100 Thieves at 3-7. Is Guardians going to be our 6th seed? If so, cool, you don't need to comment. If they're not going to be, and I don't think they're going to be, who do you guys think would replace them?
Should I? I'll go real quick. No, Golden Guardians is not going to be our 6th place team. They don't look that good. In fact, I think they're the 9th team in like the way of, like, if I had to rank them, I have them as 9th. I think it's 100 Thieves, based on what we've been seeing. I think they've gotten unlucky with who they've had to play against these past couple of weeks, but I think as soon as they start getting into the nitty-gritty of the matches where they have to replay against FlyQuest, Clutch, Golden Guardians, Echo Fox, like all of these different things, they're going to start scraping out those wins that they're going to need. So it doesn't even matter that they won't beat the top, 5-ish teams, even if, they take a game here and there. That'd be great. I think they're just going to be able to plow through that lower half of the standings and pull themselves in the 6th place. So that's kind of what my head's thinking.
That is a very good question, Sanders.
It's also really hard because they do have a 2-game lead on FlyQuest.
Right.
Which does matter. It actually does.
For sure. I guess what is Golden Guardians' record? So it looks like they beat not like overall record.
Oh,
They
okay.
beat 100 Thieves, so 100 Thieves would have to beat them in their the next matchup. They lost to Clutch, so if Clutch were to overtake them, it would be possible that they would have that they would have the tiebreaker. FlyQuest looks like Golden Guardians beat. So Clutch is the only one out of those three that would have the tiebreaker advantage. But I'm not sold on Clutch even though Hooney has looked much better than previous splits. Sanders, you said that you didn't think that they were, so go ahead and say you must have somebody in mind of who's going to replace them.
So it's really hard. I think it's really hard to justify that Guardians isn't going to be the playoff spot because I think at minimum they're going to have 9 wins, so they'd be 9-9. I think our 6th place team is going to be 9-9, and when you look at it, that's or they're going to be 9-9 or 8-10. And when you look at that, you need to justify in your head that FlyQuest or 100 Thieves are going to win 5 games. That's so hard to do, actually, believe it or not. There's 8 games left. It's really hard to justify that FlyQuest or 100 Thieves is going 5-3. To go 5-3, they need to be Optic TSM or CLG Cloud9 TSM. They need to beat 3 of those 5 teams. It's a really, really tall task to ask of, I think, both FlyQuest and 100 Thieves. There's also the chance that Golden Guardians just falls flat, right? They started 4-0, was it?
Golden Guardians?
No, they didn't start 4-0. It was Optic started 4-0. They started 3-1, I think, and now they're 5-5. So they're 2-4 in their last 6 games. So you could look at it that way too. If I had to pick, honestly, I think it's 100 Thieves, kind of like what Tanner was saying. But I also think it could be FlyQuest. I'm not really sold on Clutch Gaming doing it. Maybe they could. I doubt they will, though. I think Clutch Gaming getting some of their wins was a product of just 100 Thieves and FlyQuest and Echo Fox looking so bad early in the split. I really think that's what it was a product of. So maybe they show their true colors this last half of the split, kind of like how Golden Guardians is starting to. I just don't think Guardians is going to be representing us. I think they're going to get like 2 to 3 more wins, and that's it, which is kind of sad to say because they had a nice start. But like I said, asking FlyQuest or 100 Thieves to get 5 wins is a really tall task to ask of them in their last 8 games. They have to be 5-3. So.
Okay, I think that I have my answer. I think that if Golden Guardians is not our 6th place, which if I had to say right now, I do not think that they would be. I think that the team that would replace them is actually Clutch. Okay. And the reason why is I re-looked at their roster because I keep forgetting.
Demonte?
No, I keep forgetting that they are the ones that picked up Cody's son. And I think that actually is probably, like, if we had to give out an award for like most underrated move or something like that,
maybe the addition of Cody's son.
That's probably what I would give it to. Is we don't talk about it a lot. I don't hear the community necessarily talk about it a lot, but I think that shored up their 3rd lane. Like, if Hooney continues to play at the improved status that he has been playing lately, DeMonte we have always been impressed with, and Cody's son is a rock in the bot lane for them. Lyra is the only question, and that is a big question because the jungler is the person who has the most impact on the map. But if you look at Golden Guardians, I don't think that Lyra is... I would put Lyra and Contracts in the same I've never been that impressed with contracts. So Hanser and Hooney, if Hooney's playing like he is now, I could see the advantage going to Hooney. Froggen, DeMonte. Froggen is a great player, but he's a great player at like farming and playing fairly slow
And laning.
And like certain champions. DeMonte is a much more aggressive player, so could I see him like being better in a single game against Froggen? Yes. Cody Sun, definitely put him higher than Deathly. Deathly, I think, is kind of a weak link for Golden Guardians. And then I think support kind of goes along with the strength of your AD carry. So even though I would probably give Golden Guardians the edge on the support because they have two players that have been around for a long time, and I just would say that both of them are probably better than Vulcan. I think the fact that Cody Sun is, just so much better in my opinion than Deathly, I would have to still say that I give the advantage bot lane to Clutch. So I also wanted to say 100 Thieves like you guys because they have looked impressive as of late. It's just I kind of wonder if it's a little too late.
That's
if they
what I
started
was saying.
too far behind.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's like I was saying with you're asking them to go 5-3, right? Sure they've looked better, but like, is it the too little, too late thing? On paper, they're only 2 games behind, right? If you win a game and Guardians loses one, then you're right there at 1 game behind, right? Like,
yeah, but when you're talking about 6th place, that means that there are 5 teams that are ahead of you, and that means you have to beat those 5 teams. There are only 3 teams below you that still, in a best of 1, could take a game off of you. So, like, you would definitely have to bring your game to those.
I think the big key here for any of the 3 teams, if Clutch, FlyQuest, or 100 Thieves want to take away the 6th playoff spot, it starts with winning your next matchup against Guardians, right? Because if Clutch Gaming wins their next matchup against Guardians,
they got the tiebreaker.
They have the tiebreaker. Easy, right? If 100 Thieves or FlyQuest beats Golden Guardians, you are now only 1 game behind. And at that point, it's just win 1 more game and watch Guardians lose another one, and you're tied, right? And the tiebreaker.
And then you play a tiebreaker.
Yeah, right.
Then you play a tiebreaker.
So it's not very far fetched, but I think the big core to like any of these to the answer for any of these 3 teams is you got to beat Guardians first.
Yep, 100% agree.
Beat Guardians first, and you're fine. Lose to Guardians, you're done. So I think that's something to look forward to for the next few weeks is when we see. Golden Guardians play these teams. Those are like super, super important. Like Golden Guardians is going to play FlyQuest this week, and we picked FlyQuest to win. That's super important for FlyQuest to get ahead on the game, right? And then Guardians plays
CLG.
They actually don't play. Guardians doesn't play 100 Thieves until for a couple weeks. No, those are farther away, but you get my point, though. The argument for each team starts with you got to beat Golden Guardians.
Yeah, week 8 they play 100 Thieves.
So we'll see how it wraps up, and we get our first matchup of that this week of Guardians versus FlyQuest. We'll see how that plays out. At worst, I think Golden Guardians is going to go 0-2, right? If FlyQuest wins, I don't think Golden Guardians is beating CLG. So Guardians goes 0-2, and then FlyQuest goes 1-1. Boom, you're automatically only 1 game behind. Like,
yeah.
So
cool.
Alrighty. So interesting situation going on for NA. As for EU, they've only had 3 weeks. We know Fnatic and G2 are the 2 dominant teams, and even Origin didn't look that bad at Rift Rivals, and we've already made our predictions for them, so we're not going to cover them. That's also going to wrap it up for us. Last note, though, before we close out, is I highly recommend, just like last year, watching the China-Korea Rift Rivals. And if you don't want to watch, the group stage, I recommend watching the last 10 games where China played a best-of-5 against Vietnam and LMS, and then the big final boss was Korea. because they won the group stage. And the best of five of Korea versus China was awesome. Specifically, SKT versus Invictus Gaming in the group stage was a hell of a game. And Faker looked like an absolute monster. Spoiler alert, Invictus won the game because they were so far ahead. But there was a point where I think Invictus had a 6K gold lead and Faker just straight out 1v4'd and got a quadra kill out of it. It was so incredible, and the crowd went nuts. And that's what I wish Rift Rivals was for
Invictus used their Chevy power.
So, I just highly recommend at least giving the highlights a shot. It was incredible. Listening to the crowd was awesome. They were so into it.
Yeah.
China and Korea just do esports way better than we ever do on the West side.
Well, they also people actually there are huge fans, to where they'll probably travel to go and see. Like you were saying that it sounded like they were in a stadium. We have a tiny ass building that fits maybe 1,000 people at most for our Rift Rivals.
So I went to that studio when I went on vacation.
Yeah.
I've been at that LCS studio. It fits 100 or 150 people.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to what the scene is like in Korea and China. So.
Yeah. So, by the way, I just wanted to tell you because you were asking about it. It took place in a stadium in Seoul, Korea.
Seoul.
Yep, that is where it took place. So, it's kind of sad that we don't take things like that more seriously, but maybe that's why China and Korea are better because they take even these fun events very seriously.
I don't think that's a maybe. I think that it's definitely why China and Korea are better.
I just love how China and Korea are just like, oh, it's a for fun event, and then the coaches and players are like, there's no such thing as for fun. Win everything, take no prisoners, and that is exactly how they are. So, anyway.
That is.
That will end our show for tonight. It was pretty nice that we got to talk a little more NA because I always like talking NA, especially when they're not bad.
We'll also have plenty of time to talk about EU since they're now 2 weeks behind.
Oh yeah, So our 2 episodes at the end of Split are going to be all EU, so get ready for that. So from Jamie Selceus Christensen, he's down here, and right below him Tanner Blitzerama Brelje. I'm Jacob Sminted Sanders, and we will see you all on the Teamfight Tactics board.
They got to come up with a name.